does it break new ground? I heard this morning, think out of the box. I think you, Myrna, said, think out of the box. It has become a tired admonition. But why don't we think out of the box? Because we have no tools for thinking. We can't use the same toolkit and hope we will come up with something new. Okay? There are thinking tools. Tools that would get us unstuck and enable us to design new ideas, new institutions, new systems, new ways of doing things. Let's use them. I remember in the last workshop we had on what do you call it? If women drafted the basic law. The whole room was stuck. It was like going round, round, round. I said, you are stuck. I told them, can I get you unstuck? So I did. So I gave them a tool. All right, here's the word. So I used the tool called the random word, where you get a word from the air, wherever, you can get a book. That's the word. And you use that word to solve a problem. It gets you out of thinking the same way you've been thinking. So it's if you want to innovate, then have new tools. And finally, this is the last paragraph. When I finally write the book, I have been threatening to write. It is entitled 10 Qualities of an Empowered Woman. Quality number 9 is this. An empowered woman claims her rights as much as her obligations. We are so used to claiming our obligations, our responsibilities, our burdens, generation after generation, so that we don't claim our rights. And I think those of us who are working in the area of women's human rights will have to say that. You have a right. Claim it. But how do we, the whole thing, let us reflect on how do we make women claim their rights. It's not as easy as it sounds. If the institutions from the family to the church to, to religion to, have always told us responsibility is first before your rights. Okay? Oh, by the way, number 10. Number 10. You want number 1? No, number 3. You will like number 3. Everybody likes number 3. Okay? So you will buy my book when it's finally written. Number 3 says, an empowered woman does not feel guilty. How many women here walk around with guilt? I've seen very many women around the world. Every time I say this, oh my God, this whole room full of women walking around like, guilty about something or other. Okay, but number 10 is an empowered woman says, no more waiting. No more waiting. I ain't waiting. Right? I'm going to claim my right, and I ain't waiting. So my final sentence is this. Let us situate our work on women's human rights in the arena of peacemaking and peace building. It's not something like women's human rights as its own arena. It is somewhere. You situate it within peacemaking and peace building. Is it a connector? Is it a divider? Okay. And then, when we are able to do that, a Mindanao at peace with itself, with the rest of the country and the world, will be utterly possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Liza and Ms. Inday. There we have it. We have two very empowered women, may I say. As Inday said, Attorney Liza took us through brief history of the context of conflict and cultural diversity and plural legal systems in Mindanao. She also gave us a sense of the pain and the suffering, but also of the dynamism of the very different array of responses by both government and civil society. Sometimes we call duty bearers and claim holders, and ended with a challenge, a sigh. Well, it's really an inspiring and quote from the Secretary General, but also saying we have a long way to go in ARM. Ms. Inday began by saying, well, while Liza says we have a long way to go, we have a sense that we are at the cusp of a new period of peace. So we have both elements, and also gave us a lot of challenges, how we can be, advice also on how we can be strategic looking at Mindanao. I think it is a very good combination of the conceptual and the contextual. But both women emphasize the need to organize, 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 and that there is nothing more powerful than organized numbers. So this is something that we should continue to think about as we work together in the next 2 days. Let's open the floor for questions and comments. Please feel free. This is a safe and secure space. Are we live streaming now? We still, okay, but there's someone, is someone raising a hand? Okay. Shall I take 2 or 3 questions? You may ask to any of the speakers. There's a microphone here. And if you haven't introduced yourself, please give your name. So, Attorney Evelyn over there. Anyone else? So, would you like to start?
I would like to address my question to Attorney Liza. I know that there is a session, I think that's tomorrow or later this afternoon, on localizing the Magna Carta by, I think by Emmy, by Mien. Sorry, Mien, forget your name. But I'd like to pick up what Liza said earlier in her presentation about the drafting of the amendments to the Muslim Code, and you were saying that you have started constituency building, but that you foresee that there's going to be you're in for a long haul, that it's going to take 20 years to amend the Muslim Code. So my question is, because I'm interested particularly in the provisions of the Muslim Code and the conflicts between the Magna Carta and the Muslim Code, and national policies, for example, on child marriage, for example, between the child abuse law and the Muslim Code. So my interest is in your assessment of whether your problem lies more in the National Congress or in the support of the Muslim, of the Moros or the Muslim women and men for amendments to the CPML to make it consistent with the Magna Carta and the national laws and policies related to the conflicts. And in this regard, I'd like to know at this time in your constituency building, how far you have gone in obtaining that critical support. Thank you.
A couple of questions more related to this issue.
Yeah, I was in the same light as Evelyn's question, because we all know that part of the concluding comments of SIDO to us was to work on the amendments of the Code of Muslim Personal Law. And we did try in the beginning, but we said constituency building. So I was happy to note that, in fact, there are bills now actually filed. Oh, yeah. Oh. Kasi hindi muna namin nga sinama. We did not include it in our priority legislative agenda for this Congress because we know that it's going to be a long haul, and we said that the constituency has to be built so that the Muslim women themselves would be the ones to push for it. But if you tell us that you're ready, then we would include it.
By the way, on October 22, a few of us, including Ms. Mien, will be briefing the Congress. October 22, the House Committee on Women and Gender Equality. So if there is any specific recommendation, we can include it in our 5-minute each presentations. Any other questions similar to this one, Sok, on this topic or on another? Okay, we can take this topic first. So,
okay, some of the NISA staff are here, Attorney Alpha Pontanal and Dayang. What we've done is for 3-4 years now, no? 4 years, we've been doing constituency building. It's very, very difficult. There are two things that we need. There are two challenges. One is between and among us, the Muslims, the Muslim women and the Muslim men. So initially, we've done constituency building with the Darul Ifta, with the religious leaders, and they've been, and Sharia practitioners, Sharia court judges, Sharia lawyers, and generally, all of them are for the amendment of the Code of Muslim Personal Laws, stricter provisions on the polygamy, except for the issue on child marriage, on the age of marriage, and inheritance. Okay, so on inheritance is a bit sticky. But particularly on the age of marriage, which has been included in the concluding comments, the child marriage, child brides, we've been using the multidimensional approach, using the Quran, Hadith, the Islamic, the religious approach, and also the international and national frameworks, and trying to bridge that gap by basing it on the context, the lived realities of the women. So we did a research on this, and we will be continuing another, we'll be doing another research on legal pluralism, and how women, Muslim women in Mindanao, in the Philippines, can access justice using this pluralism in the legal systems that we have. We have Sharia and we have the regular law. So on the one hand, we still need to continue the constituency building. For one, we have a problem on resources, and I think the government should be in this, actually. That's why we're trying to revitalize and strengthen the RCBW to help in the conduct of the constituency building for the Muslims, for the Moros. Plus, we're also discussing right now the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro. So the Bangsamoro Basic Law is being drafted, so it makes it more complicated. What kind of law would be passed? So that's still going to be discussed. Now, at the national level, I think it's more, the support in Congress would come from, well, because majority of the members of Congress are non-Moros. And I think in other situations, in other cases where you have a majority-minority situation, usually the majority would say, we're not okay because we are protecting your culture, we are respecting your right to self-determination, we're not going to touch that. So if you say that marriage at the age of 9 is okay, we're not going to say anything about it because we're going to step on your culture. But that's the problem. That kind of discussion would come in. When does national government, when does the mainstream, when does the majority stop? When does it put the line? Is it going, will they say that no, there are some at a minimum there are some non-negotiables. For example, marriage should be at the age of 18. And then, so there's going to be a religious argumentation against that. But there's also a counter argumentation for an age that's below 18. And we have already been discussing this. And there are some men and some members of the ulama who are saying that it's okay, 18 is okay. But generally, 90% of them are saying no. So we're at a stage where we still need to continue the constituency building. And we would need the help of a lot of people.
Thank you, Attorney Liza. On this same topic also, Attorney Lauren, and then
Follow up kay Ate Liza. You were saying that because majority of the members of the Congress may not be willing to touch upon these sensitive issues, like if it's okay for the Moros to have their children married at let's say age 15, we are not interested in increasing that age. But I've also heard from a fellow Muslim saying that the fear of amending these provisions would be like non-Moro members of the Congress might inject provisions that may be contrary to, Islamic principles. Parang baliktad sa sinasabi mo na no, we're not willing to touch that. Ang concern naman ng iba is like baka lagyan nila ng mga provisions na in line with international standards na maybe in conflict with Islamic principles. That's in total opposite of your of what you have just said. Okay, yes.
Well, I agree with what you say. It doesn't mean that the view that I said is not in consonance with what you have said. Generally, in a majority-minority situation, the majority would say, okay, because we respect your culture, we're not going to touch that. But on the one hand, we know that the moment that there will be some well-meaning members of Congress or the Senate who would say that we should stick at 18, we should follow international standards, we should look at the lived realities and look at the situation of women, then the argument of the Moros, of the Muslims would be, then you are imposing something on us that would go against Islamic principles. That's really going to happen. It's going to happen. That's the debate that's going to happen. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So definitely, if a non-Moro congressman or senator would say, let's follow international standards, let's protect our girls, let's let them finish college, let them finish education before they get married, and so let's stick to the international standard of 18, then people would say, then if you say that, you're now going to go against our principles, Islamic principles. Yeah. Yeah. So there's going to be religious argumentation and counter-argumentation, and there's going to be an argument for international standards to be put in place, and counter-arguments. And the counter-argument for the international standard would be religious or culture.
yeah, just a very quick addition before I call on Bing, Evelyn, then Inday. That's the order. We're in for a long haul. I think that's what Attorney Liza said already, implied in her earlier presentation. For those who really advocated for the RH law, we know that it's an epic narrative of sulong and urong, sulong, or forward, backward. And it's the same, whether Christian or Muslim, it's the religious argumentation was really being used, and women's rights were politically traded off in the legislative. So sometimes not well-meaning, sometimes but I suppose there are many lessons to learn, and one was that the critical mass of advocates from among the women was really there to sustain the RH law advocacy. For the CMPL, careful strategizing by groups like NISA, we are learning also from that, and we also saw the need for women's rights advocates who are non-Muslim to learn more about gender and Islam. If we are going to support each other on this long haul, this is something we really need to learn more. And MISA happily is very happy to share with us their knowledge on this. And also we want to work very well on strengthening the knowledge base for this kind of advocacy. This workshop precisely aims to really look at the concrete ways forward on this advocacy work. I will honor my commitments, being a ging and Inday.
In the recent 49th CSW, the emerging language used was early and forced marriage. I think that's issue to defend in the Muslim world because I think there's something about child marriage that is, they say, Quranic. But also from the point of view of evolving sexuality, because a lot of Muslim countries really have not set an age of marriage. One methodology could be to look at whether ICRC's 18 is good enough, because who can say that everyone below 18 is a child? Maybe 17 is not a child anymore. So it can be from the UN. It can be reforming the UN itself in terms of ICRC. Maybe 17 is you know, it can be the other way around. Second, because the Constitution is 1987 and the Code of Muslim Personal Laws is 1977, the gains of the women's movement has not been written into the Code of Muslim Personal Laws because it was, you know, it was 1977. So if you're in a hurry, if you're thinking that 20 years, it will take us 20 years, the other track promoted by one of those who wrote the Code of Muslim Personal Laws is test litigation. So this will be where the lawyers can to say that some provisions are really unconstitutional. So maybe that's a faster track. Method.
Yeah, quickly.
The spirit of my question really was, I recognize that in the struggle for improving women's human rights in Mindanao, specifically among the Moros, the leadership should be with the Muslim women. I think that's the principle that we recognize. And so while I agree with Bing here when she said that indeed we could do test litigation, because I don't think that within the context of Philippine law, you're just going to invoke international human rights standards, because we have already integrated into our system this international standard. So I could very well go to the Supreme Court tomorrow and question the Code of Muslim Personal Laws and say that it is unconstitutional, it violates the fundamental standards of Philippine law. And I would win it. But I wouldn't do that because I don't think that is the way to go. So the point of my question earlier was regarding your assessments, because I think that the problem is not with the National Congress or with the national government in adopting a law that better serves Muslim women. I think the problem really is building constituency, building the adequate support that you need among the Muslim communities to be able to amend the Muslim code in accordance with what you want for yourselves. So my own take on your point about we are in for a long haul here was that you're in for a long haul as far as the support from your own communities, but not in terms of support from us, because I don't think the legislators would have any objection, because they have passed the Magna Carta. They have passed a long list of legislation that follows international standards. So the objections will not come from the non-Muslims. The objections will come from the Muslims themselves. But we will not lead in improving the women's human rights of the Muslim women here in the Philippines. We will not lead. We shouldn't. Although we are so tempted to even for the sake only of intellectual debate, or even, you know, just for intellectual orgasm here and to prove a point, we can just go to court, but we will not. That's my own point.
Just a short remark here, that there are very many examples of all of these in that Human Development Report. Because it is precisely, what happens in Nigeria, what happens in the Arab world, what happens, there are very many, as I said, it's not easy, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But I think if we go back to that, that's the UNDP Human Development Report 2004, and you can download it from the internet, and just look, because it give us ideas about strategies in other countries, and we can then adapt those according to our own context, no? Kasi pareho eh. Pero kaya lang, we have to contextualize dito whatever. And then remember, I also said that if we want to bring about the change, it is not enough. I mean, while it is important, to change the constitution or the law and policy, it is just not enough, because it is about deep-seated behavior, deep-seated. And also, when I think of something, if a person, it is about self-definition. When somebody has defined himself or herself this way, it's very, very deep. So but that's why in the women's movement, you remember, we started with what? Conscientization, diba? Awareness raising among the women themselves, because of we have internalized these things. So I think that's your problem. I was talking this morning that especially if you work in peace, how is it that a person who has gone to all the trainings on peace, all of a sudden, when her own something happens, and there is she changes altogether, or he changes altogether, and becomes violent. And I've had that kind of experience recently, and I'm just thinking, what have I been doing? And then I realized that's where this whole thinking of how does that person define, what is the self-definition of that person? Because that's the deep one. That's the one that we have to touch when we do capacity building and training. Okay.
Thank you for that. Anyone, before we proceed, may I just recognize the presence of Boy Era España, our commissioner from the NCIP from Central Mindanao. Welcome po. Yes, and also an advocate for women's rights. Who was raised, Sister, yeah? And can I take a few more hands? Sister Chris, another being. Ay, sorry, si Sok po pala, Sister, nakapila. Oh my, this is the second time.
I'm so grateful. You are the one who keeps on reminding her that she forgot about me. That's why I really like Mien, the Philippine Commission on Women. Now, this on the lighter side. I was just reminded of somebody who said, a quotation. This is on the lighter side. When now a war was declared against drugs, we got more drugs. When the war was declared against terrorists, we got more terrorists. So siguro, sabi niya, if you declare war against money, you'll get more money. But then I thought, maybe if we declare war against peace, we'll get more peace. Okay. But that's the lighter side. No, I'm not saying you declare war against peace. I just, okay. My comment is for Inday. And it is about women claiming their rights. Oh, by the way, I enjoyed your talk too. No? The contextual and the conceptual. That's very good. But for Inday, about rights, I guess there is one right of women that you can't find in the law books or in the Constitution or anywhere, but which is what we should claim. And that is our right to our own time. No? Time. Because usually when we talk about time, for women, we have the time use survey, no? About what women do from the time they wake up to the time they sleep. No? But we don't really find in any of the books, whether, you don't even find this being discussed in Congress or in the Supreme Court, or anywhere else. That's the women's right to their own time, to own our time, and to really spend our time the way we would like to use our time. Maybe I'm talking about this because I retired from the UN, you know. So I can use my time. I have reclaimed my right to decide how to use my time. Sagutin mo. Ay, naka-live stream ba to? Maganda ba ako dyan? Pakitignan ha. Pag hindi, pakibura ha.
Translation, she is asking if she looks good in live stream.
Okay, one answer. One answer. Quality number 4. An empowered woman does not try to be a superwoman. Yes, quality number 4.
Thank you. Don't you think Trish, my colleague and myself feel rather nervous because we have these two powerhouse from UN Women. My grandmother in UN Women, Minda, my mama in my other mama from the whole SIDO team watching us. So we have to be on our toes. But you see, you have in the whole world pala. Okay. But there you have it. But because I am an empowered woman, article number 3, I don't feel guilty for the blunders I am making. So, but I will apologize. So I'm sorry, I forgot you. I will stand in the middle to make sure I have good peripheral vision. Okay, Sister Chris.
One thing. We have viewers from Afghanistan, Singapore, and Thailand.
Wow, Afghanistan,
that's
Singapore,
probably
and
from your office. and we have 50 viewers right now.
Hello to to our companions in our journey, our viewers. Sister Chris, and did I call on someone after Sister? Was there? Okay.
My starting point of my comment is on the input of Ms. Santiago about claiming our human rights. And that is one point for empowerment, even my own empowerment. But I would like to connect this one with Ms. Eliza's input also on, and also on the discussion that was going on about how would we determine this right? And there were discussion about the Congress coming into picture again. I'm just wondering if this is the right time for us women to really assert that at this point, when we are talking about Muslim women, we have a lot of women who have already the capacity for this, to make that determination on their identity as women, as Muslims, who are influenced by their own culture, let's say the religion and history. Why don't the empowerment here is for them to be consulted rather than things be imposed on them. So for example, in determining the age of marriage, who can determine it? But they themselves, because they are the one in it. No one can tell them that women would get married at 40 or 16 or 15, but they must be the one to determine what is the right age for marriage for a Muslim woman or Muslim women. So I think we have reached a point wherein when we talk about empowerment, then there must be proper consultation of those who are involved in the process.
Thank you, Sister. Elena Bing Damaso, you were raising your hand earlier. And anyone else? Let me have the queue. Okay.
Thank you, Jeannie. There's a gray area in the implementation of the CMPL referring to mixed marriages between Bangsamoro and non-Bangsamoro. I would like to know whether the groups that are studying now to amend the CMPL are looking into cases like this, because eventually when we will have the BBL, the BBL, then some problems in the implementation would crop up when you have this kind of situation. Also, whether the implementation or fulfillment of, or practice of the ADAT would come into play in, or customary law would come into play in the implementation of the CMPL or the BBL. Of course, the BBL is still a work in progress, but I'm also curious whether studies have been done regarding the violations of the CMPL that would favor the review and the appropriate amendments. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, the mixed marriage.
Yes, that has been studied also. Those are one of the issues. There seems to be a conflict of law between the Code of Muslim Personal Laws and the Family Code, and the old law, the old new Civil Code prior to the passage of the Family Code. Under the Code of Muslim Personal Laws, for example, it says that the CMPL applies only to Muslims who marry under Sharia rights or using the code. It also applies to a Muslim male who marries using the code or under Sharia rights a non-Muslim female. So it's okay for a male, Muslim male, to marry a non-Muslim female. But what about if both of them are Muslims but they did not get married under Sharia rights? They went to a regular judge and had a wedding under a regular judge. What would apply to them? Then it will be the Family Code. What about if non-Muslims got married under the Code of Muslim Personal Laws? They would have to convert first. So there is a conversion process, and but it's a very, if you look at it, there are no safety nets there. It's very easy to convert, and they can just convert, show a document that they have converted, and then they can get married using the law, the Code of Muslim Personal Laws. Most of the reasons why they do this is especially the non-Muslims who would like to get a divorce, who would like to marry another wife but could not do so unless the existing marriage is annulled or declared null and void. So we have to try to bridge this. There is a problem there on which law to apply. Another issue is that the Sharia court is a court of limited jurisdiction. So they can only cover divorces. There's no annulment. There's also no declaration of nullity. We have tested this already. So if, for example, your allegation is that one or two of the essential requisites of marriage under the Code of Muslim Personal Laws have not been complied with, thus you are filing a case of annulment or for declaration of nullity of the marriage under the CMPL, the Sharia court would not handle that case and would dismiss the case because they would say they have limited jurisdiction, they can only handle divorces. We've tried filing a case at the regular family court for annulment of a marriage that was done under the Code of Muslim Personal Laws, and the regular family court has said that's not under our jurisdiction because the marriage was done under the CMPL. So those are some of the ping-pong balls that go from one law to the next that we need to look into and try to, well, there has to be an amendment if for that reason alone, and try to reconcile the provisions found in the CMPL and the provisions of the Family Code.
Thank you, Attorney. Maybe we have time for one or two more questions. Starge, we introduced you, Star Joan from AFRIM.
Good morning. I came in late. So anyway, I think we reached already a very critical, mayroon akong critical na, or sabihin na natin sensitive na question in relation to the LGBT community, for example, sa society ng mga Muslim. Paano yan siya na, how do you place it in the CNPL, for example? And in relation to the Bangsamoro Basic Law, meron po kaming kinakonduct ng mga consultations so far. And I think Muslim women in the security sector, ito yung isang concern nila, because the moment na maano yung BBL, they might not be, because of very rigid or very conservative interpretation of Islamic laws, they may not be allowed to serve as security personnel, I think in relation to the police personnel. Or if they're allowed to do that, then kailangan mag-follow rin sila ng mas mahabang damit, which operationally medyo mahirap. Just yung mga ganun, I don't know. Yun lang, kasi we're talking of women's human rights, at yung kulang parati yung rights ng mga babae, yung mga gays, and I know for a fact na maraming LGBT sa within the Bangsamoro Court territory.
Thank you. So this is a question about the LGBTs in the Bangsamoro.
Okay, those are real issues and actual issues. And right now, what I know is that among all the Moro organizations and Muslim organizations, these things have not been formally discussed. But these are real issues. I'll have to acknowledge that these are real issues. They are happening, and we need to somehow face these issues somehow soon, very soon. Now, what would happen is that our recommendation, just like what Minda has said, is, well, we have the Mindanao Peace Table. We have avenues and mechanisms on how we can engage with the Transition Commission, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission, in the drafting of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. And I think this is the time when, while they're still about to draft it, that we should engage with them and raise these issues, and not just raise these issues, but provide recommendations. It's a very, very sensitive issue. LGBT is a very sensitive issue. It is sensitive already in the non-Muslim world, all the more in the Muslim society. And one more also, with respect to the LGBT issue. So it's not just engaging with the Transition Commission, but also engaging at the national level with Congress, with the upper and the lower houses of Congress when it comes to LGBT rights. So it's still a long way to go. We have started discussing this. Attorney Eddie Santiago is here from the RHRC, but we have actually, yes, I have to mention your name, but we have thought about, okay, what about their rights? Well, generally, in Islam, it's also the same as in international frameworks, that all men and women are equal, regardless of gender. Regardless of gender and orientation. I think that's very, very basic, that's very fundamental. And also that, aside from the fact that all human beings are equal, there is no compulsion in religion. Okay, that's also very basic in Islam. There's no compulsion. So nobody should be compelled to believe in something. There should be no force at all, which is usually forgotten and in so many cases.
Thank you very much. That was really helpful to us to understand how to approach this issue, especially given all the sensitivities here. One last question? If not, we're moving now. Well, we would like to also to do the photograph while we are still looking fresh and not too hungry, right? Okay. So, let us once again give a big round of applause to the two empowered women. And thank you very much. We hope to have you in the other sessions as well. Trish, would you like to brief us on the how do we do the photo?
Good afternoon. So maybe what we can do is we can all move to the front for the photo session. Can we do that now? Okay.
I don't see many of us moving forward. Shall we all stand, stretch, practice our smiles? We'll start, we'll be taking our photograph.
Okay. There will be, this will be tiered according to age. So the people who can sit in the front are those who are still supple enough to stand up afterwards. Okay, so there will be front, there will be this, and there's the back. Okay. Wow, wow. Okay, stand up. Si ano dito, si ano? Ikaw. Didi, dito ka din. Di pa. Di pa. Come here. It's you. Trish, you have to. Oh, di ba? The tall ones there. Who the tall ones? Sino matatangkad? Tall ones in the back. Oh, di ba? Di ba? Done.
Asin yung mga ice TV. Pangit ang ano? Pangit. Last na ang chair. Okay. Ang chairs, please. Kuya, paalis ko muna ang chairs, please. Klaro kasi. Yan. One, two. One power. Yan yung espada. Yan yung ano. Ilang.
Okay, Lamar.
wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful I see trees that are green, red roses too.